Thank you, Sam. Generous as always. Boy, that pianist. One day I'm going to grow up and be just as good as him. I'm delighted to be here, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to talk about independent voices and public spaces, because in today's ever-expanding media universe, a trusted space for independent voices matters more than ever before. Now, if we watch 20 hours of TV viewing per week for 50 years, we'll spend 6 years of our lives in front of a television. But according to a recent Nielsen's poll, when time on the internet is included, people are averaging 35 hours a week. That works out to 10 years out of 50 in front of some kind of screen. Let's hope that there are moments for learning and enlightenment. That's our mission at Knowledge Network, to inform and educate, to broaden awareness by exploring the world as a trusted public broadcaster, because British Columbians deserve a place free of commercial pressures where independent voices can always be found. Now, I want to take us back to September 2008, to an event that shook the foundations of public trust around the world. The collapse of the subprime mortgage market in the United States and the bankruptcy of Lehman Brothers triggered a meltdown of the global financial system, and this led to an economic crisis paralleled only by the Great Depression. What happened? Was it the failure to challenge conventional wisdom? How could so much money be invested in complex financial products that so few people understood? Why were mortgages given to those who couldn't afford them? And how did exuberant chatter in the media drown out critical voices that warned of impending crises? In our effort to promote economic literacy, last year Knowledge Network broadcast the anthology series Mad, Mad Money, When Greed and Fear Rule the Market. Over 14 weeks, we examined the forces and players behind the near-death experience of the world's financial system. The anthology included Neil Ferguson's The Ascent of Money, a primer on how the financial system works with the invention of money, banking, bonds, and the common stock company. The series also examined the Wall Street firms that required the largest bailouts in history. And it also profiled the legendary Warren Buffett, showing why he's one of the smartest investors and richest men on earth. How did Buffett avoid financial ruin and prosper in this time? In his own words, you can't do well in investments unless you think independently. And the truth is, you're neither right nor wrong because people agree with you. You're right because your facts and your reasoning are right. And in the end, that's all that counts. I see parallels with our programming at Knowledge Network. It's our mission to encourage independent thinking so people can make the informed decisions that are essential to civil society and functioning democracy. We're working on a 15-week-long anthology for next year entitled The Party's Over, How the West Went Bust. Nice cheery title. Because people are still deeply concerned about their jobs, their mortgages, and their pensions. Now, I found my own independent voice in grade 11 English class. That's when I made my first film, a take on George Orwell's 1984, a novel about a totalitarian society ruled by Big Brother. When that fateful year finally arrived and the predicted Orwellian nightmares had not come to pass in the free world, we were all relieved, of course. But according to noted educator and media theorist Neil Postman, we'd all forgotten that there was an earlier dark vision of the future, Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, published in 1932. In Postman's own 1985 book, Amusing Ourselves to Death, Show Business, Public Discourse in the Age of Show Business, he warned that television's effect of turning all subject matter into entertainment would diminish us, just as Huxley had predicted. And to quote Postman, Orwell warns that we will be overcome by an externally imposed oppression. But in Huxley's vision, no big brother is required to deprive people of their autonomy, maturity, and their history. As he saw it, people would come to love their oppression and to adore the technologies that undo their capacities to think. Sound familiar? Orwell feared those who would deprive us of information. Huxley feared those who would give us so much that we would be reduced to passivity and egoism. Orwell feared that the truth would be kept from us. Huxley feared that the truth would be drowned in a sea of irrelevance. Orwell feared that we would become a captive culture. Huxley feared we would become a trivial culture. As Huxley later wrote, civil libertarians and rationalists who were ever on the alert to oppose tyranny failed to take into account man's almost infinite capacity for distraction. End quote. In today's ever-expanding media universe, we're seduced by an infinite variety of distractions, from reality TV to Twitter gossip. And thanks to our mobile devices, there's nothing to keep us from a screen anywhere or anytime. Now, to remain relevant and to thrive as a trusted destination and a meaningful destination in this largely commercial universe, in 2007, Knowledge Network set out to transform itself from a single TV station to a multi-channel media service. Today, British Columbia's Knowledge Network operates 2 commercial-free television channels, including BBC Kids, 3 websites, and a magazine. We're building a high-definition channel for launch next year, and we're developing apps for smartphones and tablets. We commission independent documentaries on BC histories, First Nations languages, the arts, culture, and healthcare. And all our children's programming, all our educational children's programming is provided in a safe environment that's free of violence, free of sugar, and free of commercials. I thought the parents would appreciate that one. About 1.5 million British Columbians tune in and click on to Knowledge each week because they trust us. And what does it cost? Per person in the province, our BC government grant works out to the cost of about a small cup of coffee once a year. And an ever-growing share of our funding comes from our 35,000 partners who last year donated over $3 million. Now, earlier I spoke about the great economic crisis triggered by the unexpected meltdown of the subprime mortgage crisis in September of 2008. But it's critical to note, however, that there were independent thinkers who saw it coming. Joseph Stiglitz, a Nobel laureate in economics, had this to say in January of 2008 at the Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, quote, "As I and a couple of colleagues explained how the bubble had developed and what its bursting meant, a chorus of central bankers in the front row chimed in. No one predicted it, they claim. That claim was immediately challenged by the same small band that had been talking about the bubble for several years. But the central bankers were in a sense right. No one with credibility in their circle challenged the prevailing view, because no one challenging the prevailing view would be treated as credible. Sharing similar views was part of being socially and intellectually acceptable," end quote. British Columbians trust Knowledge Network to provide diverse points of view that challenge the way they think about current issues so they can make informed decisions. And with public support, Knowledge will continue to provide a commercial-free space that connects audiences with independent thinkers and independent voices. Viewers will spend at least 6 years of their lives in front of a screen. It's our mission to ensure that some of that time is devoted to learning and enlightenment, so that we will not be spending all those precious years amusing ourselves to death. Thank you very much. Thank you.